Good evening. I'm Glenda Carlin, and it is June 18th, 2024. Welcome, welcome. First thing I want to remember right off the bat is invite in Jesus, Buddha, Holy Spirit, enlightened beings, ascended masters be here now. We're always here, but we invite you into this meeting. Guide me what to do or say, but also help each participant and those that watch the video later with insights how whatever I say can help them cut through the delusion to see this clear light, which is called Rigpa in Buddhism, easier, pure presence, pure God presence. Purity it's clear. Innocence is clear. Help us, see that. And that's done through typically meditation, becoming aware of the nature of mind. So welcome, Holy God Barbie, Holy God Edward, Holy God Lynn, Holy God Julia, Holy God Debbie, Holy God Glenda. Now, what I'm talking about tonight came about because I realized when I first started meditating, no one really pointed out to me these perils, how there's the egoic mind can take over and we think we're meditating, but we're in the ego mind. It's called ordinary mind, and nowhere near this Buddha, Christ, God mind, this clear light mind of pure awareness, of purity, innocence, of Christ mind, Buddha mind. So because of that, then, and it also came out because I'm reading in a book called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal, Sogyal Rinpoche. And in it, there's a chapter 10 on Dzogchen. Dzogchen is Dzogchen. And what Dzogchen is, it was secret, it's the most advanced, I'm reading here from a quote, system of meditation on the deepest, subtlest, foundational levels of mind. And that's what Holy Spirit brought to me in October of 2019. Dzogchen Buddhism and this particular Lama that taught it, who brought it from Tibet, France. He went to these retreats, but brought it to the West. I think it had been introduced a little bit before, but this was in the 80s. We're talking new, recent. And A Course in Miracles was published in 76. And A Course in Miracles is talking about this clear light nature mirror, this mirror mind that is Rigpa, this pure awareness. And I'm going to, so this teaching tonight's, it's really, Dzogchen meditation is really called non-meditation or unmeditation. And I sure hadn't thought about unmeditation because it's called unmeditation or non-meditation because when we practice this on a meditation cushion, we sit in a chair or on the floor, however you do it, where we're looking at being aware of this mind and being aware when thoughts and emotions come and go on the mind and to let them go to become aware when we're off the cushion, that then we're in non-meditation where we're aware of what that ego mind's doing and we're not deceived or distracted by it. But anyway, and I'm going to talk, there's characteristics of this deception that of this ordinary, it's called ordinary mind versus the awakened clear light mind, which is Christ mind, Buddha mind, God mind. Anyway, but I'm reading from this book. But in A Course of Miracles, this is in workbook lesson 31, the similarity between the Dzogchen meditation and what Jesus has us do in some of his instructions in the Course is to not establish any kind of hierarchy. I'm letting somebody in. When, as we survey the inner world, I'm just going to read this quote. This is what Jesus calls letting this stream of thoughts come and go. And bear in mind, I did not know this, even though I'd studied the Course, I didn't pick up on these things. I was trying to repress thought. I thought that was what meditation was, to just repress it and just get to some silence. That is the opposite of what we want to do. The mind that's free flowing in the Tao, the living flow of this God spirit, this God energy, this God light. This God light is reflexive, reflexive, reflexive radiance. That means it's constantly creating things. It's constantly. That's just its nature. And with that comes so-called good and bad things, thoughts, feelings, all kinds of stuff, holy thoughts, feelings, and egoic ones. But Jesus in the Course, here's the quote, says, as you survey your inner world, merely let whatever thoughts cross your mind come into your awareness, each to be considered for a moment and then replaced by the next. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy among them. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Do not dwell on any one in particular, but try to let the stream move on evenly and calmly without any special investment on your part. That's workbook lesson 31, paragraph 3. Let me tell you, that sounds easy. It is not. Until you actually practice this type of meditation, then you become aware how this mind is just chattering all the time. Thoughts and feelings, thinkaholics we are. That's just how this egoic mind is that we made and have allowed it to be master over us. We're a slave to it. We just knee-jerk react. And I can say these words, but this whole teaching here and the whole Course in Miracle workbook lessons, Jesus is wanting you to meditate. Yes. And this type meditation, we're not meditating on anything. We're not on a candle, not on the breath, not on a phrase. We're simply sitting in our chair and seeing this vast spaciousness of space in our mind, and then becoming aware when there's thoughts. And just aware there's a thought and let it go, because it will self-arise. These things self-arise because that clear light that your mind is, your God, Christ mind, Buddha mind, is creating all these thoughts. It's just the way it is. And that's why Jesus says, watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Let the stream move on evenly and calmly. Well, that's the whole crux of this Dzogchen meditation as well. The Course and Dzogchen go hand in hand. Now let's see. I'm going to also define the word Dzogchen and Rigpa. It's R-I-G-P-A. That's the Buddhist word for this clear light that is God presence. And also in the different Dzogchen books and Buddha teachings, it's called clear light mind, clear light. Maybe just clear light essence, clear light, but it's the same because it doesn't have any color to it. It's clear. Like I said, purity, innocence, it's clear. And that makes it difficult for you because you can't see it. So you just think of it as space, vast space, or like you can even picture it like a blue sky where the clouds or the birds You're just letting things come, or like thoughts and feelings come and go. But I'm just gonna read here. I want to read. The true nature of mind is pure, pristine awareness. That's a capital A. Now, Jesus talks about that in the Course because we're going from ordinary awareness, just believing in this dual world. These objects are real out there. The duality of good, bad, happy, sad, healthy, sick, the believing in all of that duality, subject, object, cause and consequence is the dual world. That's ordinary mind. But an ordinary awareness, you're going to capital A awareness, which is called also Rigpa. And here's what the Dalai Lama said about Rigpa. This is where we come to the distinction between the word sem, S-E-M in Tibetan, meaning ordinary mind, and the word Rigpa, signifying pure awareness. Generally speaking, when we use the word sem, S-E-M, we are referring to mind when it is temporarily obscured and distorted by thoughts based on the dualistic perceptions of subject and object. That was what I was just talking about. When we are discussing pure awareness, which is genuine consciousness or awareness free of such distorting thought patterns, then the term Rigpa is employed, R-I-G-P-A. That means this pure awareness versus the ordinary mind is obscured by these thoughts, dualistic perceptions and thoughts. But how we free up that mind is not by denying these egoic thoughts or repressing them or attaching to them, the good ones, attaching to the good thoughts, because then that's believing in dualism, believing in these objects. But of course, we live our life. I'm talking about the pure state of meditation, but when you get off the cushion, as I walked around my new condo here, I think about Glenda's walking in God's presence. God's light is animating this form. God light is animating this Muppet, this image. I'm trying to admit Leon. I'm not sure. There it goes. This is in the Course in Miracles, called an image, a form, also a body, but a projection. And it's projected, all these images are projected into this clear light and animated by the clear light. So it is, welcome, Leon. Welcome, God, Leon, to group. So I'm talking about ordinary mind versus Christ, Buddha, God mind. But what happens due to this type of meditation I'm going to talk about tonight, you become aware of when you're walking around and having these thoughts of duality, agreeing with ego's thoughts of duality, and you stop and you choose again. But more than that, you don't push it away. Don't push it away. That's not what I want, or deny it. You let it just come and go freely. That's one of the big secrets here. Not to reject it, not even really label it as egoic, because then that's a label, that's a judgment. You just these are makings and creation of God mind, of our Christ Buddha mind. Their innate nature is holiness. Okay, but anyway, then what I'm going to read from is this Tibetan book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche. Now, why this is important, it's a big deal, is as you become aware of this pure, clear light, you become aware of it, you recognize it. At the moment of death, you get to choose to be with the clear light or go off with these thoughts. So that's why this practice in your mortal life is really important. It goes way beyond awakening and enlightenment, because at the point of death, this article I'm going to read talks about in that moment, with you being aware of this clear light, you in that instant of choosing the clear light, you can that mind can become awakened and enlightened. So we're not this topic tonight is not simple. It's not small thinking. It is just, it's marvelous. It's marvelous because it fits in the whole scheme of this process of birth and death. But anyway, so in this section, let me just give you a couple of, let's go back here. I want to talk about the Course in Miracles calls this mind a spotless mirror, that I'm going to talk about this pure awareness. Because for you to be able to hear me talk, you are aware of what I'm saying. You have an awareness. You're conscious of this. And so this awareness gets fine-tuned where you're aware of this clear light. And you're aware when you're thinking and agreeing with egoic thoughts. And because uh, one thing is, as you become aware of egoic thoughts, then you'll start to recognize how often you've been enslaved by them. And it's like, what? What? So now that I'm aware, picture this. Just walk. I have a little journal somewhere, a notepad, and just start watching what you're thinking about. For example, let's just say a friend brings up a subject, or you see some subject on TV. In a heartbeat, ego brings up memories of a like subject. And the mind, the ordinary mind, goes off with it, starts to rehash that memory. I'm not kidding. That's what monkey mind, just so reactive, agreeing, any memory, like if it's a news program or a story, or somebody brings up a topic of it just happens so fast. It just is, then you're in the past in a memory, and just repeating thoughts about it. And that's when you become aware, and you let that thought go, and you kind of giggle, because I think Julia was talking about that, is you go, oh, I caught that deal. I'm not I'm letting that go, just letting that come and go. Now, there is a point about this, though. If over and over and over and over, predominantly you have some recurring images and thoughts, then that stuff needs to be journaled, and you sit with Holy Spirit, Jesus, Buddha, enlightened beings, ask them to help you, because that's something that you probably really judged hard and you haven't let go of. And so then you want to think of that person, image, or event as God, as holiness, as I love you. I did the best I could. They did the best they could. If they knew any better, they'd done better. I would have done better. And you are practicing Jesus' advanced forgiveness, looking past the form to the spirit, or the clear light that's here. That's what he's asking you to look. Do you see flesh or spirit? Now, that's what I'm talking about here. How do you see spirit? Spirit's this clear light, so that when you're meditating, you're looking inwardly at this spacious, clear light. It really looks like space, vast space. But anyway, other times, when you're meditating, when you get done meditating, then you write your journal. When you're meditating, it's best not to make notes. You're just letting this mind come, aware of your mind, the presence of the clear light, and these thoughts, letting these thoughts go. So memories, but then also I want you to, be aware of, then it's called afterthought. That's a word that I just saw a post from a Buddhist holy person and had the word in there, afterthought. And I thought, well, what is that? And real soon, not long thereafter, there was somebody I met out with when I was walking, and we had a conversation. And I went on walking and they went their way. Do you know, before I recognized it, this egoic mind was rehashing that conversation and started to label and judge the conversation, what the person was saying, and how it could have been different. Why didn't they do this or do that? Or I could have said this or I could have said that. And that's called after dash thought. That's how ego nabs you again, because that is, you become aware of when you're in these conversations, you've agreed with these thoughts with ego. And you become more and more aware because on the meditation cushion, you're letting these thoughts come and go. You're becoming aware of them. But anyway, but because this pure God mind is like a mirror, it reflects all these projections clearly. It doesn't modify them. It's not going to modify these projections. And as you learn to meditate this way, you end up integrating, it's called this relative ordinary world, egoic world, physical world, with this holy God mind, this clear light that's here now. The Garden of Eden, we've talked about it. Heaven and earth will cease to be two separate states. They're one now, except we don't look at it that way. It's integrated. All these images are projections within this God mind, etc. But anyway, it's a spotless mirror that's clear and reflects everything clearly until I start to label, name it, and judge it. Don't let it come and go. All right, now here's Dzogchen, and from this book. And could really describe A Course in Miracles. And what I like about this is it gives another perspective on the Course, because like I talk about, the Course is just complicated in its text. And how can you apply this besides practicing these Course lessons each day? Mind refers to the unbroken mental activity of cognitively engaging with objects, described from another point of view as the mental activity of giving rise to appearances, mental holograms. See, all these images are mental holograms. We're having just mental activity, engaging with these objects, right? Okay, well, what? Dzogchen means great completeness. Now, what that means is all these images are animated by God light. They're all complete, full, not empty, full of God light and spirit, pure, innocent, holy. They're gods walking around here. But it's the great completeness to it of Rigpa, meaning pure awareness. But what's happened is we're not functioning. And why? Because we're befuddled or dumbfounded by us. We're in this onto these thoughts and these emotions or pushing them away. List the read to you. Yeah, the list of things that are not the type of meditation that I'm wanting you to practice, or to be aware your mind has fallen into this deception, into this ordinary mind kind of thing. The first one, in one of these states, you drift into a no man's land of the mind where there are no thoughts or memories. It's a ground of the ordinary mind. So when I look back on when that I was meditating this unenlightened way, I thought it was in the enlightened way. There weren't any, I was repressing thoughts. Hey, but that's not the spontaneity and the flow of integrating earth and heaven and leaving things be just as they are and recognizing it's all God, all animated by God. Because I was coming from, I'd read A Course in Miracles and I had jumped on that the ego was bad and the symbol of the ego was the body. So I wanted nothing to do with the body. And I sure as hell wasn't going to talk about it being animated by the light. It was just talking about in the mind was could go to Christ's mind. And, but until Dzogchen and this Buddhism and this type of meditation, did I start to realize, hold it. This is how to live an enlightened, awakened life. Enlightenment, beside meaning these light chakras in your mind, opens to your great ray, and your arc of light spark opens, and the great ray's released. No, the arc's released, and then the great ray downloads. Is enlightenment means your mind becomes wise about the workings of the ego mind and the pure mind. That's what true enlightenment is. It's called knowledge. It's true. It's the big K knowledge. And that's can be another translation of Rigpa, which I didn't read that part, but it carries all the connotations as knowledge, field of knowledge, esoteric knowledge. That's one deal or definition of Rigpa, which is this clear light that the Course talks about, which Rigpa's clear light is pure awareness, denotes the innate mind in its natural state of spontaneity and purity, beyond altering states of motion and the subject-object dichotomy. So see, you become aware of subject-object and two-ness of these thoughts and feelings, but you become awake to what the hell's going on. You're in the mind's enlightened to what's going on, and you're letting these thoughts come and go. And that's why it's just seeing, just hearing, just tasting, just feeling, just thinking, without labeling, naming, and judging, or being aware when you've gone off on a whole paragraph about analyzing something. Now, there's a time and a place for all this. You got to go have a court case. You got to analyze, get facts and everything, plan your budget and all. You got to, keep your checkbook going. I mean, balanced. I mean, and this is called the middle way I'm talking about. You do all these things in your ordinary everyday life, the day you integrating this God light, meaning your body is walking around in God's presence. I'm eating in God's presence. I'm thinking in God's presence. God lights animating the form. You're integrating holiness into your daily life, because that's when heaven and earth are no longer two separate states. Oh, it's so beautiful. But anyway, in meditating, I was in no man's land of the mind, where there was no thoughts or memories. It's a ground of the ordinary mind. The ordinary mind, that's the ego mind. The second state of mindlessness, of this incorrect meditation, there is some stillness and slight clarity, but the state of stillness is a stagnant one, still buried in the ordinary mind. I want to read that again. There's some stillness and slight clarity, but the state of stillness is a stagnant one, still buried in the ordinary mind. Now, because what I'm getting at is spontaneity. It's a big deal. Because again, when that meditation, I thought that stillness was really stagnant. I wouldn't let all those thoughts in, memories come through of whatever went on in my past, or anticipating the future, etc. I was pushing them away or grabbing onto them. But anyway, in the third way, you experience an absence of thoughts, but are spaced out in a vacant state of wonder, W-O-N-D-E-R. Now, that's the other thing. Like, oh, you're kind of thinking, oh, I'm in wonder of God, or, ego's is so deceptive. It's really trying to keep you ingrained with it. In the third one, you experience an absence of thoughts, but are spaced out, that's in quotes, in a vacant state of wonder. This is a characteristic of that ordinary mind. This is not the type of meditation Dzogchen teaches or I teach at all. It is not the enlightened, awakened. It'll take you years and other lifetimes. It'll delay you. It will delay you. In the fourth deception, your mind wanders away, hankering after thoughts and projections. And none of these is the true state of meditation. And the practitioner, that's us practicing, has to watch out skillfully to avoid being deluded, deceived, deceived, thinking, oh boy, I made it. I don't got any thoughts. There's no memories or stillness. No. Now, don't get me wrong. In this spontaneity of these thoughts and emotions coming and going, there is stillness, but it's a different, it's a different clear light. It's a different stillness. It's not stagnant. There's spontaneity to it. You're letting it be. It's a flow. That's another word for it, a flow. The living Tao, the flow. Because in this clear light God mind is constantly creating images, thoughts, feelings, because that God spirit is experiencing this world within your form in these six senses, the mind, the hearing, the sight, the nose, the taste, all these stimuli. These are stimulus sensations, but egos use those stimuli, those sense gates against you, because you start thinking. It's called thinkaholics. We've been enslaved by thinking, that monkey mind, just thinking. Who's thinking these thoughts anyway? Where you lean back but you're aware of the thoughts, but you don't go off with them. You don't get attached or push them away. I mean, I hadn't even thought about the strategy of something like this, the freedom that comes from allowing things to be just as they are, show up just as they are, without manipulating them, changing them. Doesn't mean you can't have a conversation with your family in a rational, responsive way about there's some issue we're going to work on here. But you do it with love and light, and later, and while you're doing it, you're thinking of them as God, Christ, Buddha, and you're praying with them. Maybe you start the whole deal off with a prayer. Let's pray, bring in Holy Spirit, Jesus, while we work on this item that seems to be an issue. Because we're not psychological doormats or physical doormats to anything. But as soon as you can, if you weren't able in that conversation to think holy thoughts, as soon as you can, you're thinking holy thoughts about that person and the event. And you've turned it over to Holy Spirit. Okay, I did what I felt needed to be done, and I felt I was guided to do by you to have peace and cooperation in my family or whatever. But then you're aware when the mind is having them going back on that memory. And this is a holy story I've heard repeated many different times about two monks that were going somewhere, and they come upon some stranded woman that needed to be carried across some creek or something. And one monk decides he's going to carry her across. And the other monk, they walk along and they get to the other side and they drop her, and then they go on. And then the one monk, he couldn't contain himself. What the hell? We took a vow. something like, you're not supposed to be touching a woman. And what the heck? And the other monk goes, hold it. I sat the woman down long ago. You're still holding on to her, something like that, because that's a damn judgment. That guy's hold on to the thought first that that guy did something wrong. He was compassionate with empathy, helping this person. He meant nothing by it. He wasn't going to sexually abuse the woman or nothing, but he put her down. This is like this egoic mind. It can't leave things alone. It'll bring it back up, start labeling and judging. You could have done it different, etc. Doesn't mean we don't refine things and improve things, but yet we don't fall prey to this being told what to do. We sit back and investigate, contemplate, pray about it. And then what happens though, sometimes you just got to make a decision. You make one and you do the best you can. And then if you need to be refined, you refine it later. So, because you're building the quality of virtue, ethics, empathy, compassion, so you can respond accordingly when decisions need to be made. You're no longer making them in a selfish, one-sided kind of way. You with me? The mind's being transformed back to its normal nature. It's Buddha nature, it's Christ God nature. Now, here are 4 points that encapsulate this type of Dzogchen meditation that I do, that's called sky gazing, space mingling, mantra. There's some different ones. And they're in this book called Natural Radiance by this Lama Surya Das. And in it's got an old style CD in it. Or you go online and you can get the MP3, the audio version. But by golly, I was reading this book, Natural Radiance. He lists all these meditations that I can't cover them tonight. I'm just bringing open to your mind. If you want to advance your learning and save yourself years of work to practice sky gazing and space mingling meditation that's described in that book, Natural Radiance. Awakening to your great perfection. Lama Surya Das. Okay, now this is from this Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, that they encapsulate the 4 points of this Dzogchen meditation. This used to be secret meditation. When one past thought has ceased and a future thought has not yet risen, in that gap in between, isn't there a consciousness of the present moment, fresh, virgin, unaltered by even a hair's breadth of concept, a luminous, naked awareness? Well, that's what Rigpa is, RIGPA. That means clear light, pure awareness. Yet it doesn't stay in that state forever, because another thought suddenly arises, doesn't it? This is the self-radiance of that Rigpa. That's what I'm talking about. It's never going to stop making thoughts or feelings. It's never going to. That radiance, that mirror-like quality of mind is always creating, always making things, always. But I'm going to go back to this first one. When one past thought ceased and a future thought has not yet arisen, there's a gap. Isn't in that gap there a consciousness of the present moment, fresh, virgin, unaltered? Now, that gap is the only time that's real, the present moment, called nowness awareness. In this nanosecond right now, like, what am I walk around like being aware of what you're doing while you're doing it. You're then in nowness awareness. You're aware. I talk to myself, oh, I'm eating food now. What am I doing right now? And then I look and I see God clear light. For those that can't see the God clear light, then you fake it while you make it, because this space that seems to be here is this clear light of God mind. You just have to think about it that way, because you're retraining the mind. Like Jesus asked you in the Course, Do you see the flesh or spirit? I mean, you can't see spirit. So it's this spaciousness, this clear light that's around us. So in nowness awareness, you stop, you're aware of what you're doing while you're doing it. And then and in that instant, you remember God. I'm not kidding. This builds on itself. Every time you do that, it becomes easier and easier and easier because it builds on itself, because you're building these gaps that were little single gaps between thoughts. They get wider and wider. It's called a sacred moment, a sacred pause, where you're able to have some time to respond and not just knee-jerk saying stuff. But anyway, and the second point was, yet that little moment, present moment that's fresh, virgin, luminous, naked awareness only lasts a second till you have another thought arise. And then you think about it, that's just this self-radiance of my clear light God mind. Yeah, that's just showing you another thought that's got made up or created. Third item is, however, if you do not recognize this thought for what it really is, the very instant it arises, then it will turn into just another ordinary thought as before. This is called the chain of delusion and is the root of some samsara. That's hell. That's hell right now on earth when we're not awake and alert to what we're doing while we're doing it. We're sleepwalking zombies, just rote doing this stuff, just rote reading the same old books, rote walking and not thinking about what I'm doing, what I'm saying, not thinking about this is God, animate my form. I'm walking in the presence of God. And I hear my footstep come up and down. I'm walking in the presence of God. I'm driving in the presence of God. Because see what he's saying here. And this thought is the self-radiance of my God mind. Where'd these thoughts come from? If you do not recognize this thought for what it really is, which is this radiance, or it's called self-reflexive, or reflexive, reflexive, reflexive radiance, meaning it just creating, it's just automatic. That's just its natural state. God mind, Jesus mind, Buddha mind is constantly creating, making. Some people do poetry, some do art, some do books, some do physical things, sewing, have businesses, whatever they're doing. That's this inner flow of energy that's making things, images in this world. But we become awake to what's going on. We don't buy into all the images. We're aware they're false images. They're Muppets made to enjoy and feel this God light, this God spirit, to experience being in a body, doing these things. That's, here's the fourth one. If you are able to recognize the true nature of the thought as soon as it arises and leave it alone without any follow-up, then whatever thoughts arise all automatically dissolve back into the vast expanse of Rigpa and are liberated. So you're aware these are just thoughts and feelings arising in that clear light mind. It's just making stuff, letting them come and go. Like Jesus said, it's in my email. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy among them. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Do not dwell on anyone in particular, but try to let the stream move on evenly and calmly without any special investment on your part. This is what Dzogchen meditation is, but I'm just breaking it down into these steps. Nobody ever broke this stuff down for me till I started Dzogchen. Then you break it into these steps so you're aware of what the hell your mind's doing. What is that ordinary egoic mind doing? And to do that, you're sitting on the meditation cushion watching that mind. Then you're observing it. You're aware of what it's doing. And that awareness deepens and deepens and deepens as you get off the cushion. Then you're aware when the mind is wandering to these past memories or having an afterthought of a conversation you had with somebody. And I'll just giggle and go, oh man, they're ego's rehashing that conversation. But I used to believe in it. I'd rehash with it. Just keep going with it. And then I wouldn't be in the now. I wouldn't be in nowness awareness, in this pure, clear light, walking in the presence of God, clear, pure light, resting, being. That's the whole Course of Miracles, is to be, rest in this clear light of God presence that's here now, resting. Just as you walk around, you're resting, you're being in the clear light while you clean the house, you drive the car, sit in your chair watching a basketball game. Last night I was watching a basketball game. I have to remind myself, because sometimes I'd get involved in who was doing what in the basketball game. Oh yeah, look, those are Muppets playing the basketball NBA national final. Who's gonna win? What the heck? Letting thoughts come and go. Don't know who's gonna win. Don't know who's gonna lose. But just stay attentive. Just stay attentive. Watch how those Muppets are moving around. Look at them go. Look at them. I mean, I'm not kidding, because that's our body images. These are images, dream figures, Jesus calls them, mirage figures, hallucination figures. But we don't discount it. Their holiness. And I thought about, wow, what if a person spent as much time as they spend practicing shooting those threes from all over that court to practice in meditation, Dzogchen meditation, they could wake up to their reality. They could still play that game. But typically people get out of the traumatic world events when they start to realize the peace of mind and the evenness and smoothness of all this. They kind of back off a little bit. They can still be involved in something huge, like a big NBA game. But just think about that. But think about your own life. What if you spent a little more time practicing each day, had a daily practice? Where could you be in 6 months or a year? Because look how fast time goes. Look at this. It's going to be July 4th. I mean, that's 7 months of this year is starting. I mean, that year's going to be gone. I mean, duh. I mean, this year's going to be gone. But that's why the moment that nowness awareness, but also then we're honest with ourselves or admitting, well, I really don't want to practice. I'm not going to wake up. That's just how the hell this is going to be then. Then quit fooling yourself. You're just going to be however this is going to be. Because I'm not talking about intellectualizing things here. I'm not talking about reading many more books, but although natural radiance, oh my, if you want to learn how to meditate, and for free on Sunday, Lama Surya Das has got a free Sunday town hall meditation, 11 to 12 Eastern time. You go to his website www.dzogchen.org, dzogchen.org. You can sign up and get an email, and you can meditate. Sometimes he teaches that. That man is a priceless guy. I forget how much he charges to help people, because, I mean, he's an expert. He's a master. And just pay attention to what he says when he's leading that meditation. Just take a breath. Relax. He'll have it. And he doesn't even tell you relax. He just takes this. He'll talk about some words. Then he'll go, but see, you catch on because I'm teaching you. A-H, relax. Then you relax. And then you're aware, like he'll talk about this pure, clear light, your natural state. Just leave these things as they are. Oh, see, all that's going straight into your unconscious mind. And you're meditating with a master, and you can bet the enlightened beings are there helping because, oh man, he's called them in. They're helping if you want to stay open. And then during the week, I meditate with that group out of LA, Dzogchen group out of LA. And if you send me an email, in my salutation, no, in my closing, there's a link where you can email Deb and she'll send you a weekly email with this link. It's 11 to 12 um, Eastern time. Now, oh, Monastery DOS, after a while, they'll post it on YouTube or it goes on Facebook. Now, the Dzogchen LA group, they don't record it, but there's all kinds of meditations free on his podcast, YouTube, and stuff where you can learn this meditation. It'll save you years of work. And you don't have to know how to say these chants, but it's the intention, because that's what I did in the beginning. I didn't know any of these words. And people said, just lean back and let the sounds wash through you. And that's what I did. And there's an English translation. And when you read that English translation, they put it on the screen. It'll say about our natural Buddha nature. Of course, Buddha, you transfer that for Christ nature if you feel uncomfortable, or God nature, because that's what this is. It's all the same thing. But they're talking about Buddha, who may reach enlightenment by this type of meditation. Okay, so these are the 4 points, the essence of meditation practice in Dzogchen. Now, this is just so simple, you just people overlook it, is these thoughts. When one thought comes before the other one's arisen, there's a gap. In that gap is nowness, the holy vertical now that Jesus is talking about, the vertical axis, the now, presence. He calls it holy instant, but it's nowness awareness. Nowness awareness is curative because if you stop and think, oh, I'm in the now, I'm in between two thoughts, that's holiness, because you big deal, you've stopped, you're aware of it. And then if you go a little further and just, oh, God presence, my clear light, God presence is here. Then before you know it, your mind's thinking again. Another thought. Okay, which is the way it is. You don't fight it. You just become aware of it and bring your attention back. When you're aware of the thought, your mind wandered off with that other thought. Bring your attention back to this spaciousness between your eyes. And before you know it, the thought will wander. But what you're doing, you're building a spiritual muscle. It's truly what it is. Because we've lived so long with this ordinary mind, this egoic mind, that we've built these ruts, these roadways, these ruts of habits and ways of thinking and a thought. Then we get another thought, then it builds on another thought and then another thought. And we make a whole paragraph of labeling, judging an object, subject object. It's just the way the egoic mind works. So you're building another rut with a holy thinking, but before you know it, your mind drops back in that egoic rut. It's called like a cow, ruminating, chewing, or cud, or whatever it's called, over and over and over and over again. Then there's a rut. It's a habit. This is habitual, egoic thinking I'm talking about here. With meditation, you learn about your higher nature mind and how you're building a freeway of freedom. And you don't beat yourself up when your mind wanders. You just go, oh, come back to the now. Because it's a huge deal. Think about all these years we didn't know what the hell we were doing and just lived this way. Now you're waking up to it. That's beautiful. This is so beautiful. Pat yourself on the back, or you wouldn't be listening to somebody like me. I mean, people don't want to typically want to talk about meditation and what the hell one's regular or that's stagnant. Because I've seen when I've been in groups, when I think back on them, this is not criticism, it's just a fact. We're not talking the meditation where you let your eyes roll back in your head. That's stagnant. That is not the spontaneous responsiveness of clear light mind of this, your God mind of heaven and earth that have joined, which is Jesus, of course, in miracles and Dzogchen. But they just didn't know any better. And people, that's how they were taught. We're not talking stagnant stuff here. I'll go back to these four that are the old or ego deal, no man's land of mind, where there are no thoughts or memories. It's a ground of the ordinary mind. Because see, there'll be thoughts and memories show up. That's how you know spontaneity is happening. You just let them come and go. It's called leave it as it is without judging it, labeling it, going out after it. I mean, that's, wow. So that's perfectly fine. We're not trying to repress thought. Second state, there's stillness and slight clarity, but the state of stillness is stagnant, still buried in the ordinary mind, stagnant, dull, stagnant. Yeah, thoughts. Yeah, and we're not thoughts and feelings coming and going. In the third one, you have an absence of thoughts and you're but spaced out in quotes in a vacant state of wonder. Now, ego's tricky. One, oh Christ, God mind so beautiful. I'm wondering, well, but it's spaced out, spaced out. It's not present, present in the now, spontaneous, aware, awakened awareness. You're aware. You're aware. You're not off into the future or anticipate or speculate. Oh, that's a beautiful, wondrous thing over there. Then that's labeling. That's ordinary mind, dual mind labeling. Oh man, that's not what we're doing. We're aware when we're labeling, and you let that go. Leave it as it is. And then third, you experience, oh, wait, I said that. In the fourth one, your mind wanders away, hankering after thoughts and projections. That's so normal. That's it. Attachment and aversion. I want it. I don't want it. That's the cause for misery and suffering. That's one of the first noble facts of life is dissatisfactoriness. Things aren't as I want them, so then I'm going to change it. I want something different, or I don't want it, and then that causes suffering, misery, suffering. But the third fact of life on Buddhism is there's nirvana. There's another way to look at this. There's a way out, a way to practice to get free of this. And that's what's wonderful. Buddha and Jesus are giving us ways, tried and true ways to wake up from this illusion, this delusion, this mirage, this dreamlike deal. Because it's not totally all dreamlike, because heaven's real, nirvana's real, God, clear light is real, your God mind is real, your Christ Buddha mind is real. That's why, remember, we don't say, oh, it's all an illusion, because you will feel like an illusion. You'll feel like you don't belong. You're all alone and separate and apart, incomplete, lack, scarcity. You'll start to feel depressed, just totally alone and out of it. Because you got to finish it with, I'm God. It's God. Jesus says, oh, and I wrote it here, lesson 183, God's name. Name yourself your name, which is God. And lesson 153 talks about half an hour is too short a time to spend with God. So that's why he's talking about, that's Jesus talking, because he wants you to build up this meditation, this ability to be. No, oh, how are we doing on time? Oh my goodness, 8:05. Now, let's see if there's something. We're talking about here a flow. This is a flow. A flow. It's not stagnant. What were those other words? Stagnant, no man's land, no thoughts, spaced out, a vacant state. No, no. This is a flow, because the God mind, there's a prana, an energy, this holy light, clear light, it's a flow. That great ray, when it's released, comes in and goes out. It moving like ocean waves. The ocean never leaves its bed but there's a wave-like motion. Thoughts come and go. If we leave them alone, leave them alone, they'll self-arise. Just try this, investigate this, contemplate this, sit with it. They'll self-arise, it's called, and self-liberate. I'm not kidding. You leave them alone. And it's okay. Then be aware. I just grabbed onto that one. Oh, I've been thinking about that. Oh, so then you let that go. We're talking meditation. Okay. Now, what I'm talking about here sounds maybe easy, but here's what these big boys say. So Joe Rinpoche. Oh, and those that came in late, why I'm bringing this up. This Tibetan book of living and dying, he's teaching this type meditation, Dzogchen, chapter 10, because at the moment of death, when the body starts to decompose and you're left with the mind then starts in chaos. And if you've not become accustomed to the clear light of God mind, you get drawn off into all that egoic thoughts. That's why this is important, folks. It's not just for your day-to-day awakening. It's for at moment of death, you could awaken and become enlightened in a heartbeat. Go right to the light because you've been practicing and looking at it and recognize it. And you've called on Holy Spirit. You've learned to call on God, Holy Spirit, Jesus, and Buddha. Come here, be here, help me on all your perils of your daily life. You've turned to them. So at death, people in a coma, they look like they're in a coma and they ask them, go pull the plug. And I heard a story about this well-known author, and then his wife was there, and he was in a coma for quite a while, and the wife, I forget their names, the doctor was asking the wife to pull the plug, and she was contemplating it, and then that husband, he kind of either shook his head or kind of made some movement with his eye, and she recognized he was still there. So inside the coma, consciousness is this pure awareness that I'm talking about here. And she didn't pull the plug. The guy came back. I mean, really. So what I'm talking about here is not this normal dead body stuff. We're talking about this awareness that's God mind, Christ, Buddha mind, consciousness, awareness that's lucid, radiant, reflexive, meaning it's spontaneous, it's creative, forever creative, forever creative. We've just misused it. The mind just misused it. Dzogchen meditation is powerful in dealing with the arisings of the mind and has a unique perspective on it. All the arisings are seen in their true nature, not as separate from Rigpa, that means clear light, and not as antagonistic to it, but actually as none other. And this is very important. That then it's self-radiance. See, that's what I'm trying to talk about. I studied A Course in Miracles, and I never, ever thought this. I thought it was separate. Ego was separate, horrible. Of course, we don't want to agree with ego, but we're not killing ego. It's just part of this physical world. So these are together. Say you find yourself in a deep state of stillness. Often it does not last very long, and a thought or movement always arises like a wave in the ocean. Page 3, this is page 4. Don't reject the movement or particularly embrace the stillness, but continue the flow of your pure presence. The pervasive, peaceful state of your meditation is the Rigpa, meaning clear light itself, and all arisings are none other than this Rigpa's self-radiance. This is the heart and basis of Dzogchen practice. One way to imagine this is if you were riding on the sun's rays back to the sun. You trace the risings back at once to their very root, the ground of Rigpa. This is this clear light, this God light. As you embody the steadfast stability of this view, you're developing a view of seeing this spacious, clear light with these images just dancing around in it. You know, as you walk around your house, go to the grocery store, the images and Muppets are dancing around in the clear light. As you embody the steadfast stability of the view, you're stabilizing this view. This is what happens. You're maturing it, stabilizing it, because you're integrating this type of view with your daily life. You're no longer deceived and distracted by whatever rises, so cannot fall prey to delusion. Of course, there are rough as well as gentle waves in the ocean. Strong emotions come like anger, desire, jealousy. The real practitioner recognizes them not as a disturbance or obstacle, but as a great opportunity. The fact that you react to arisings such as these with habitual tendencies of attachment and aversion is a sign not only that you are distracted, but also that you do not have the recognition and have lost the ground of Rigpa. You've lost your clear light, nowness, awareness. To react to emotions in this way empowers them and binds us even tighter in the chains of delusion. The great secret of Dzogchen is to see right through them as soon as they arise to what they really are, the vivid and electric manifestation of the energy of Rigpa itself. As you gradually learn to do this, even the most turbulent emotions fail to seize hold of you and dissolve as wild waves rise and rear and sink back into the calm of the ocean. The practitioner discovers, and this is a revolutionary insight, whose subtlety and power cannot be overestimated, that not only do violent emotions not necessarily sweep you away and drag you back into the whirlpools of your own neurosis, they can actually be used to deepen, embolden, invigorate, and strengthen the Rigpa, the clear light. The tumultuous energy becomes raw food of the awakened energy of Rigpa. The stronger and more flaming the emotion, the more Rigpa is strengthened. I feel that this unique method of Dzogchen has extraordinary power to free even the most inveterate, inveterate, deeply rooted emotional, psychological problems. Remember a couple weeks ago, I told you, I became aware I was attached to an image of a person wanting a physical companion. Now think about when I read this, preparing for this teaching, I realized how that made a big difference in my life. I made some big jumps in how I can practice and integrate this more freely in my life, because I faced, honestly, what this major obstacle that ego has with us of companionship with physical forms, because that's the self concept being reinforced as a body, as an image, not as a Muppet animated by God light, which is a reinforcement of separation, of duality, two-ness, a companion. You can still have a husband and a wife, partner, family, all that, but you're not attached to it. You see it for what it is. That's what happens with this type of meditation. Then your attachment you can let go of, and it became a fuel, a raw food that I used to help bring me deeper into my practice of this. Because I was aware, I had the feelings, I was worried and sad that this was not going to happen. That's aversion, but I was attached to a physical form. Doesn't mean you can still have a companion. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. And Dzogchen doesn't say that. It's that we've let go. We've recognized we are this spirit, this God, clear light, this Rigpa, pure presence, pure awareness, letting these thoughts and feelings come and go. But this is, when I read this, I went, wow, because what huger thing can you let go of than the thought that you're a self in a body and there's another person standing over there, your husband, wife, partner, whomever. Boy, they're in a body, and I'll sure as hell be upset when they die, or I don't want them leaving if they're talking about leaving, or there's an argument or some crap goes on. I mean, then all this, they says it here, the tumultuous energy becomes raw food for this awakened energy. The stronger and more flaming the emotion, the more rigpa is strengthened. Because see what happened? I became confident. This built my confidence that there's only God. And I cleave only to God. I cleave only to the truth. And then whatever happens, it comes. Whatever I'm guided to say or do, I do or say it in with the companions and with the figures and in the dream. There's still the communication in the physical world, but I'm not kidding you. I cleave to God. I walk around saying I cleave to God. And that's deepens when you say I'm walking around in God's presence, because there's only God clear light, this rigpa, pure awareness of God clear light. Let me finish reading here because this is so beautiful. If y'all can stay. Let me introduce you now, as simply as I can, to an explanation of how exactly this process works. This will be invaluable later on when we come to look at what happens at the moment of death. In Dzogchen, the fundamental inherent nature of everything is called the ground luminosity or the mother luminosity. See, that's this clear light, radiant light, that mirror-like reflection that's radiant. This light is radiant, clear. It's luminosity that God mind that did the Big Bang is luminosity, this vast energy, that can create anything. Blew it out, the universes. But anyway, it's ground, what the point, the nature of mind that could make the Big Bang, all the universes, the physical realm, the Garden of Eden, the ground, the beginningless beginning, Jesus calls it the pre-Garden of Eden separations, the pre-separation state of Garden of Eden, meaning before the separation. The Big Bang made the Garden of Eden, all these trees, this whole universes, the planets, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, called mother luminosity because it made it, it created it, the mother, like mothers give birth as children. Okay, this pervades our whole experience and is therefore the inherent nature of the thoughts and emotions that arise in our minds as well, although we do not recognize it. This inherent nature, this ground luminosity, mother luminosity, is every one of your minds. It's God. That's okay. Wait. When the master introduces us to the nature of mind, to the state of rigma, it is as if he or she gives us a master key. In Dzogchen, we call this key, which is going to open to us the door to total knowledge, is called the path luminosity or child luminosity. Because see, remember what I'm talking about? I was confused what enlightenment meant. It means you're enlightened as to the wisdom. You have wisdom as to how all this works, how the ego mind works, how the God mind works. You're resting in it. You're just one with it, but you've become aware of how all this is going on. The ground luminosity and the path luminosity are fundamentally the same, of course, and it's only for purposes of explanation practice that they categorize this. But see, the path is the child and the mother's God. They are merging in this awakening process, is what he's going to get to. But once we have the key of the path luminosity through the introduction of the master, we can use it at will to open the door to the innate nature of reality. The opening of the door in Dzogchen practice is called the meeting of the ground and path luminosities. Then you recognize your inherent nature. That's page 4. Where's page 5? I'm on my last little page here. The two luminosities merge and thoughts and emotions are liberated in their very ground. Because see, that's this light, this clear light is just, it's essential to perfect this practice of the merging of the two luminosities and the self-liberation of risings in life. I want to repeat that. And the self-liberation of risings, that's these thoughts and emotions that I'm talking to you tonight about, of risings, letting them come and go. Because what happens at the moment of death for everyone is this: the ground luminosity dawns in vast splendor, and with it brings an opportunity for total liberation, if and only if you've learned how to recognize it. It will be clear now, perhaps, that this merging of the luminosities and self-liberation of thoughts and emotions is meditation at its deepest level. In fact, a term such as meditation is not really appropriate for Dzogchen practice, as ultimately it implies meditating on something, whereas Dzogchen all is only and forever Rigpa, that's his clear light. So there is no question of a meditation separate from simply abiding by the pure presence of Rigpa. Now, that's another word for resting. You're going to learn how to abide, rest in this clear light, God mind. The only word that could possibly describe this is non-meditation. In this state, the masters say, even if you look for delusion, there's none left. Even if you look for ordinary pebbles on an island of golden jewels, you wouldn't have a chance of finding any. When the view is constant and the flow of Rigpa unfailing, and the merging of the two luminosities continuous and spontaneous, all possible delusion is liberated at its root, and your entire perception arises without break as this clear light. The masters stress that to stabilize the view in meditation, it's essential, first of all, to accomplish this practice in a special environment. And this holy guide is recommending that people sign up for a retreat. And these retreats can be 5 to 6 days or 7, where you are in a retreat with a holy, enlightened person, and where they're practicing sky gazing, space kneeling, and Dzogchen. And he's saying, second, Dzogchen, there's no difference between Dzogchen between meditation and everyday life. See, and that's what I'm trying to impress upon you in the last 2 or 3 or 4 teachings. There's no difference between the clear light and everyday life, because you're integrating them until you found true stability through doing the practice in proper sessions. Unless you do them at this, unless you learn to let these thoughts come and go, you're falling prey to those 4 stagnant, trance, ordinary mind stuff. Okay. And let's see this. You're able to abide in the continual flow of Rigpa with the confidence of the view. And that flow is in all times, in all situations, mixing your practice with everyday life. It will not serve as a remedy when unfavorable circumstances arise, and you will be, if you've not learned this, you'll be led astray into delusion by thoughts and emotions. So I hope I've given you the big picture of this egoic mind of thoughts and emotions, and how powerful it is to be able to learn to let thoughts come and go and be aware of them on the cushion and off. Now, I'm kind of gone a little late here. Anybody got a thought or a comment before we leave? And before we go, let's look at every tile on the screen and welcome God Barbie, God Edward, God Lynn had to leave, God Debbie, God Terry, God Leon, God Debbie, God Julia, God Joan, God Glenda, all here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, any thoughts or comments before I stop the recording? And I apologize. This is the first time I've ever tried to describe this big picture between the ordinary, dull meditation mind and this more spontaneous, alert, awake, aware mind during meditation, of Dzogchen meditation. And it's a meditation Jesus is teaching. He just doesn't call it that. He says, you know, that stream. Watch these thoughts Let whatever thoughts cross your mind come into your awareness, each to be considered for a moment and then replaced by the next. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy among them. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Do not dwell on anyone in particular, but try to let the stream move on evenly and calmly without any special investment on your part. That's workbook 31. Whoo! We're talking, this is Dzogchen's the highest teaching in Buddhism, and A Course in Miracles is the highest spiritual teaching that I know of. And they're saying the same thing. Yay, we can do this. You can do it. You are doing this. We can do this. You can integrate and stabilize this. But now that you know what you want to do, then see, you kind of have a plan. You kind of feel more comfortable in being aware that you went off attached to some thought or repressed one, and you don't beat yourself up. It's a big deal to be aware you did it and come back. And I did this for years. I'm not kidding you. So 2 or 3 years till finally I could, wow, I could do this. It's beautiful. And we don't deny pain or any of these things. We don't deny. It's the middle way. We visit our doctor, acupuncture, our diet, or whatever. We're breathe through the pain while we're getting our help from our doctors or whatever we're doing. In and out, asking Holy Spirit, Jesus, Buddha, enlightened beings, help us, guide us. What did we need to do? There's enlightened beings that deal with pain, have a certain illness, have cancer. There's holy people, they do, but they just then in their mind, they look at it differently and they're practicing what we're talking about here, letting feelings and thoughts come and go while they're doing whatever they're doing for their illness, so-called illness, because they're pure, whole, and perfect in spirit, God's spirit. Any thoughts or comments before I stop the recording? Thank you for listening. Now, so then each of you think of each person on the screen as God, or however you want to look beyond their body to the spirit that's there. Like Jesus says, are they flesh or spirit? That's simple, isn't it? But we fake it while we make it. We don't believe they're spirit or a Christ or a Buddha. It's okay. I didn't either. Didn't love them. That's why we say, I love you. I love you. I love you over and over and over and over. And then you do finally feel it. You finally do tap into that, where you tap into the commonality. We're brothers in spirit, sisters in spirit. Okay, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna stop this recording under more. Stop recording.